I keep rolling a couple of things through my head. One is in response to Robert's words about the youth who have been kicked out of their homes. I worked for 15 years with people who trade sex for something that they need. And most of the people that I worked with were people of youngish age, anywhere from 16, 17, all the way up to late 20s, early 30s. And many of those folks were LGBTQ folks who had been kicked out of their homes and were no longer welcome in their homes, had been turned away from churches, had been turned away from their communities. And I keep thinking about this one person that came in. I was working in D.C. in a pretty economically disadvantaged neighborhood. And a person came into my office one day as I ran a program that served sex workers. And the person said to me, I need some help, I need some food, some basic things like that. And so I asked, what pronoun do you prefer? And the person said, my name is Cosmo, just call me Cosmo. So Cosmo and I talked a little bit. Cosmo, tell me where you're spending the night. Well, there's an abandoned building that's around the corner that they're renovating, and one of the owners or one of the managers of the workmen that work there let me stay there overnight. And so I have a roll-out bed, and I just stay there most of the nights. Are you there alone, Cosmo? Well, no, usually the manager or the owner or the person who manages the workmen or someone like that will usually stay there with me. Well, so tell me more about that, Cosmo. Cosmo says, well, you know how it is. I get a place to stay, and once in a while they steal all my stuff, or I get beat up, or and there was, some underlying sort of other things, sexual trauma, that sort of thing that were happening. And so I said, Cosmo, tell me about your home life. Tell me about what you left. And Cosmo said, well, where I'm at is a lot better than there. And many of the people that I met who were trading sex would say to me, what I've got is not awesome. I'm trading sex for food, shelter, for what I need in a day. And I'm susceptible to violence. I'm susceptible to trauma. I'm susceptible to all these things. And yet, it's better than where I came from. Because where they came from was such a loss of self. When you have a family who doesn't accept you for who you are, it is such a loss of self. And even if you're being brutalized, it's better to have yourself. One of the texts that's been rolling around in my head as I've been working today thinking about this was from Acts chapter 10. And Acts chapter 10 tells the story of Peter. Peter is taking an afternoon off, and so he goes up to the roof, and he's hanging out on top of the roof, and he falls into a trance or a deep sleep. And he wakes up, and he's really hungry, so he thinks to himself, oh, I'm really hungry. In this dream that he has, there's this blanket basically laid in front of him of all kinds of meats. Peter's Jewish, so there's lots of meats there, lots of animals there that he cannot eat. And he hears a voice from heaven who says, take and eat, kill what you want and eat it. And Peter says, no, God, I can't eat any of those things. They're all things that I'm not allowed to eat. And God says, trust me, anything that I have made clean is clean. There is no unclean. And it's an important lesson about food, but a couple of days go by, and Peter's hanging out with some new friends, and they sort of say to him, so that we're not Jewish, we're not your people, it's against your rules to hang out with us. How are you hanging out with us? And it just comes to Peter, he begins to understand that which God has made clean, no person can make unclean. And that is the lesson for me of the gospel, that God made us exactly how we are and where we are and all the things that make us both alike and different, and none of it is unclean. Even though churches will try to say that it's sin, as you said, or they might even say that it's illness, it is neither. It is not something, being LGBTQ is not, it's not unclean. But even more than that, it's sacred because it is who you are and how you are made specifically by God. I think I'm done. Thank you.